I don't remember leaving the hotel. I remember the cold, the way it cut through my coat as soon as the doors opened. Sharp, clean, indifferent. Snow still falling, as if nothing had changed. David walked beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat of him through the air, but not touching. He didn't offer his arm. He didn't rush me. That somehow made it worse. I remember the car door opening, the sound of it closing, the smell of leather and winter. After that, the rest dissolves. The city passed by the windows like something unreal. Streets I knew, buildings I had lived in, all flattened into shapes without meaning. I watched my reflection flicker in the glass and didn't recognize the woman looking back. Was I crying? I don't remember. My body felt heavy, as if it belonged to the seat more than to me. Every movement required permission I no longer knew how to give. David spoke once, just once. "Tell me if you feel unwell." I nodded. It was easier than answering. The car slowed, stopped. The building rose in front of us, gray, solid, unavoidable. The police station. I stared at it, detached, with the distant curiosity of someone watching a life that was no longer hers. This is where stories end, I thought, or where they finally begin telling the truth. David stepped out first, circled the car, opened my door. For a moment I hesitated, not because I wanted to run, but because I knew that once I stepped out, there would be no pretending this was still a misunderstanding. My foot touched the ground. Snow crunched beneath it. And just like that, I was inside the case. Inside, the air was warmer, stale, recycled, heavy with the faint smell of coffee and disinfectant. The door closed behind us with a dull, final sound. I flinched. David noticed. Not enough for anyone else to see it. Just a flicker in his eyes, a recalibration. He slowed his pace, subtly adjusting to mine, as if he understood that every step now required effort I no longer had. The station was already awake, phones ringing, muted voices, footsteps echoing down tiled corridors. It wasn't chaotic. That was the worst part. Everything moved with quiet efficiency, as if death was a routine inconvenience, neatly slotted between paperwork and coffee breaks. David spoke to the officer at the desk. I didn't listen. My name drifted past me like something belonging to another woman. Eva Van Rice. Hearing it out loud made my stomach tighten. I was guided toward a row of plastic chairs against the wall, blue, slightly cracked, too cold when I sat down. "Just a moment," David said. "I need to take care of something." I nodded again. It was becoming my only reliable response. He hesitated, just long enough that I noticed, then left. The space he had occupied felt immediately larger, emptier. I sat there, hands folded in my lap, staring at a notice board filled with faded posters about public safety and missing persons. Missing persons. For a moment, the thought twisted in on itself. That could have been me. My foot tapped against the floor without my permission. I pressed it flat again, grounding myself in the sensation of solid tile beneath my shoe. Don't shake. Don't draw attention. I focused on small things. A crack in the wall shaped like a lightning bolt. The hum of fluorescent lights. The second hand of a clock ticking far too loudly for such a quiet room. Time stretched, then folded in on itself. I couldn't have said whether minutes passed or hours. My mind kept circling the same question over and over, like a finger pressing against a bruise. When did he die? I saw him falling again. Not still, not quiet, alive, grasping his throat, eyes wide, not with fear, but with disbelief. "You dared," That was what his face had said. I swallowed hard. If he had been alive when I ran, then when? Eva. David's voice cut through the spiral. I looked up too fast. Dizziness washed over me, brief and sharp. He was back, alone now. "There's an interview room ready," he said. His tone was neutral, professional, but his eyes searched my face, as if checking whether I was still holding together. "This isn't an interrogation," he added carefully. "Just an informational conversation. You're not in any trouble." Not yet. The thought surfaced uninvited. I stood, legs unsteady, and followed him down the corridor. Each step echoed too loudly. The walls closed in as we walked, narrowing the world to the space between my shoulders and his steady presence just ahead of me. A door opened. A small room, a table, 2 chairs. Nothing dramatic. Nothing forgiving either. David gestured toward the chair opposite him. "Please." I sat. The door closed. And with it, the last illusion that this was still something I could wake up from. David sat across from me, measured, deliberate. No recorder, no cuffs. Ivan Novak took the chair to my left. I noticed the way he opened his notebook before he looked at me, as if putting something between us made this easier for him. They told me we would start with general questions. General. I nodded, because nodding had become my safest option. He asked when I had last seen my husband. "Yesterday morning," I told him. "Around 9. He wrote that down. Then came the question about whether anything had seemed unusual. Unusual. I thought of the house. Too quiet. The air heavy. The way Robert's voice hadn't followed me down the hallway the way it always did. I said no, nothing unusual. They asked if we had argued. I shook my head. No, that was technically true. David stayed silent beside me, letting Ivan guide the conversation, watching me the way you watch ice you're not sure will hold. They asked me to describe my marriage, in general terms. I didn't know where to begin. How do you summarize something that doesn't break you all at once, but slowly, carefully, until there's almost nothing left to summarize? I told them it was private, that Robert valued privacy. Ivan wrote that down too. Then the questions shifted. They asked about enemies, about disputes, about money. I told them there were none, not that I knew of. That answer came easily. Robert never let me know things that mattered. And then, almost casually, they asked about the house, about the jewelry. My stomach tightened immediately. Some pieces were missing. They were mine. Family pieces. They asked if they were insured. Yes. If Robert knew where they were kept. Yes. If anyone else had access to that part of the house. I hesitated, just long enough to seem thoughtful. "The housekeeper," I said. "Hilda." Ivan's pen paused, only for a fraction of a second, but I noticed. While he wrote, my mind drifted backward, to the night before. The sound of the drawer sliding open, my hands shaking as I took the jewelry out one piece at a time. The weight of it in my palm, heavier than gold should be. I remembered standing by the river, the cold biting through my coat, the way the water swallowed each piece without a sound, one by one. Evidence of a life I wanted to erase. They asked if there had ever been a break-in before. No, that was easy too. A silence settled after that, thick, but controlled. Ivan closed his notebook. He told me the house was sealed as a crime scene, that I wouldn't be able to return there. I absorbed that without reacting. Somehow, it felt like mercy. Then he asked where I would stay. The question caught me off guard. I searched my mind for people who were no longer there, friends whose faces had blurred over time, connections Robert had quietly severed one by one. I said I would stay at the hotel, for now. Ivan nodded. That would be fine. David stood, signaling the end of it. They told me we might need to speak again as the investigation continued. As the door opened and we stepped back into the corridor, my legs felt hollow, like they were no longer entirely mine. And then I saw her. Hilda sat on a bench against the wall, hands folded tightly in her lap. Her face looked pale under the fluorescent lights. Our eyes met, just for a moment. Something passed over her expression, too quick to understand, too sharp to ignore. A tightening, a flicker. I looked away first. David noticed my hesitation. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. "Yes," I said. "It's becoming automatic." We walked on, and whatever I saw on her face followed me down the hall, unresolved.